Okay, in this lesson, we are going to take some of the assets that we've gathered and apply them into this layout right here. So the topic that I've chosen is creating a site for like a rock band. And so what I've done is I've gone onto Flickr and other sites like Stock Exchange and get pictures of rock shows and rock stars and stuff. So these photos are from the band The Strokes. The other thing I did was I gathered these social media icons, which I'm going to use so when people go to the site, they can share this site with other people, which will make it easier to market the site. So I guess I'll just go ahead and start. Oh, the other thing I did was I downloaded a font, which is this right here, kind of a more grungy punk rock type font, and it's called Pixie Frito. I think that's how you read it. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started. So, oops. Here's my layout right here. Actually, let me open it one more time. And I've got my logo up here. I've got a main slide image. I've got some other images, and I've got some text and some headers. So one rule to follow when doing typography is you don't want to apply any sort of crazy fonts to your main paragraphs, and mainly because that just makes it really hard to read. And so you want to mainly stylize your headers and keep the other fonts a pretty simple, normal, readable font. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So for the logo up here, I'm just going to change the font of that. So I'm going to hold down Command or Control for Windows, right click, and choose that layer, logo. So up here is the font, and I'm going to start typing P-E-I-X-E Frito, and there it is, and hit Tab, and it's changed it. So I'm going to just call this the band, or that's kind of boring. I'll just say the Strokes. And just add a little bit of hierarchy of importance. I'm going to make that font a little bit smaller so it's not competing with the main word so much. And then I'm just going to move it up slightly. So do that and hit enter. Now I'm going to apply that same font to all these. Now, I will say this. Do not worry about doing the exact same things I'm doing. So this is one particular example of just doing a rock band. Yours could be maybe a personal portfolio site or a humanitarian site or whatever. It could be any site. So, you know, add a little bit of creativity, a little bit of uniqueness to your layout. I'm just showing you the general process. You don't have to follow this verbatim. So having said that, I'm just going to kind of go through and show the general process and just follow along and gather those techniques in your head. All right, so I'm going to just delete that so it's a little closer. Okay, now I'm going to apply the same font here. Maybe bump the text up a bit. And I'm going to see how it looks in all caps. I kind of like that a little better. I'm going to apply the same thing here. All caps. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. And maybe for the subheader, I will make that not all caps. See how that looks. I think I'll still keep it all caps. And apply the same font. So I'm going to show you how to apply a font to multiple layers of type. So I'm going to hold Command, right click this header type. Now I'm going to hold Shift while I have Command still held down. Right click, choose that one. Still holding Command and Shift down. Right click, choose that one. And what I've done is essentially selected multiple type layers. Although it looks like I didn't quite, looks like I selected this group instead. So I'm just going to hold Command, click on that, and then click there because I want the header type layers. So since I have all three of those selected, I'm going to change the type, change that to all caps, make it a little bit bigger, and then maybe move it down slightly. And then finally I'm going to do that to the subheaders. So same process, Command Shift, right clicking to choose all those layers. All right, and then the footer. Move those a little closer. Okay, so now I'm going to change the copy just to make it a little bit more unique. So instead of About Us, I'm just going to write the band. Contact, I'll just call that Fans. And then FAQ, I'll just change that to Merch. This one, I'll just have that say Tour in Europe. And then for this, I'll just say first show in Berlin. And then here, I'll just have it say something like check out pics. And I actually forgot to change the font of that one, so I'll do that real quick. Make it all caps. And since I have some more room now, I'm just going to say the latest pics. All right, drummer, guitarist, singer. And down here, I'm just going to say the strokes. Site designed by Jonathan Early. Okay, so that takes care of the copy. Next, I'm going to start applying some images here. So first I'll start with this main image here. So what I'm going to do is go back to this one right here. I'm going to right click, open with Adobe Photoshop. Here it is. I'm going to press Command A, and again with all my videos, anytime I say Command for the Mac, it's going to be Control in Windows, and anytime I say Option for Mac, it's going to be Alt for Windows. So Command A, select it, and then Command C to copy it. So now I've got this image on the clipboard. I'm going to press Command W to close that out. I'm going to use a lot of hotkeys because that is going to save you a ton of time in the long run. So I really strongly suggest that you learn the hotkeys and that you don't have to go up to the menu every time and say edit, copy, edit, paste, because in the long run you'll save hours when you have really big projects. So for this main image, that's where I'm going to paste the image I just copied. So to make sure it's in the right place in terms of the stacking order here, I'm going to hold Command, right click, and choose Slideshow, because that is what that layer is right here. And I'm going to hit Command V and paste it right above. Right now this image is way too large, so what I have to do is before I go and rescale it, I'm going to convert it to a smart object. And I'll demonstrate why I want to do that right now. So first off, I'm just going to do it the wrong way. I'm just going to go ahead and hit Command T, drag this down, and maybe put it here. Okay, so I just resized it. But hey, what if I need it to be a larger image? What if this image is actually going to span the entire width here? Well, if I hit Command T and scale it up now, you're going to notice there's some pixelation going on. So, and some blurring. And that's because I'm scaling up, sorry, I'm scaling up an image. And generally when you scale up an image, you're taking an image with not very much visual information. So just to really over-exaggerate the point. Here's my picture here. If I try to blow this up now, look at that. I have lost all of my quality. So you do not want to scale images up. The max that you want to scale something up is going to be like 115%. Anything beyond that, you're going to start noticing pixelation and blurring. So do not do that. All right. So here's the image when I first pasted it in there. I'm going to right click, or if you're still in the type tool, hold Command and right click. And I'm going to choose layer 1 because that's the name of this image. Now I'm going to right click on this layer, not on the thumbnail, but on the layer, and choose Convert to Smart Object. And that's going to put this little icon right here, which means that it is now a smart object. And now I can hit Command T, scale it, and I don't have to worry about losing quality. So I'm going to get it really small. Now I'm going to scale it up, and all of my quality is preserved. That's because if I double click on it, on the thumbnail here, it's its own separate file that's not really being touched. So if you want to alter this image in any way, you're going to make the changes here, and then you're going to have to save this as if it's its own file. So I'm going to close out and scale it back into place, which is about here. Okay, now what to do about this cropping issue? I don't want it to go all the way down here. I want it to kind of crop within this area. So one really quick, easy way to do that is create a clipping mask. Now I have this, I'm going to turn this off. I have this rectangle layer right here. Now if I want this to crop to fit within this box, the way I do that is I hold down the Option key. I'm going to turn this back on. Hold down the Option key and move my mouse between those two layers, and you'll notice this little icon appears. Now in CS5 and CS6, this icon might be a little bit different, but it does the same thing. So I'm going to put it between there, and while it's showing this alternate icon, I'm going to click, and now this image crops to this image. So if I want to move it into place, I'm going to click on this layer, switch to my Move tool, and move it into place. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing for these other 3 images here. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and save this image. I'll call this Singer. All right, I'm going to grab my next image. So for the first column, it says Drummer. So I'm going to get this drummer image, right click, open with Photoshop. Press Command A to select it, Command C to copy, Command W to close. I'm going to hold Command and right click right here, choose that image 1. So that is this image right here. And I'm going to hit Command V to paste. And again, this image is huge, so I'm going to right click, convert to smart object, Command T, and then hold down Shift and drag this corner so it scales it proportionally. And I'm going to move it into place so that it fits within that box. Then I'm going to hit Enter, put my mouse between the 2 layers, hold down Option, and click. And now I'm just going to make a slight adjustment to move it into place. Next we have Guitarist. I'm going to go back out, find the guitarist image, right click, open with Photoshop, Command A to select all, Command C to copy, Command W to close, right click, choose this image, Command V to paste, right click, convert to smart object, Command T, hold down Shift, drag, move into place. And actually I'm going to do something kind of special with this image because I'm probably not going to be able to fit it vertically into that space. So I'm going to show you guys a special trick. So I'm going to go ahead and scale it to there. And what I'm going to do is create a vector mask so that his head is actually going to stick outside the boundary of this image. Now this is a little bit tricky of a process. So yeah, follow along closely. So first of all, I'm going to switch to the pen tool. And up here under mode, I want this second mode. And if you see a drop down there, instead of those three icons, you want to choose paths. And what I'm going to do is zoom in. I did that by pressing Command plus. I'm just going to create an outline using the pen tool. And to get these curves, I'm just clicking and dragging. Otherwise, you just click to create points. So I just want to get a basic outline of the guitarist. And his guitar. And I'm actually just going to go, I'm not going to be too careful with the rest of the image. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to lower the opacity here temporarily so I can see behind the image. So this is showing how this is going to be oriented in terms of the cropping. So what I want to do is I actually want to crop it to this rectangle, but then have certain parts stick out of the edge of the image. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and, switch to the rectangle tool now. And before I start drawing anything, it's really important that I set the mode so that this will add to my selection. So I'm going to select this first icon, which is Add to Path. And you'll notice there's a little plus in the bottom right corner of my cursor. That means whatever I draw, I'm going to add to my selection. So I'm going to click there. So now I have these two paths, and I want to create a vector mask from them. So the way I do that is first I need to select them. So while I'm in the pen or shape tool mode, I'm going to hold down Command and Option at the same time. And I'm going to click, that's going to select this entire path, and now I'm going to hold down Shift. So at this point I'm holding down three keys, Command, Option, and Shift. And that's so I can add this rectangle to my selection. Now I'm going to right click, and you actually might not even see the right menu item unless you're in the pen mode. At least that is in CS4. So I'm going to go over, click on the pen, and if at any point you click off of this and you lose this selection, you'll need to go back and reselect it. Now with the pen tool selected, I'm just going to move over these paths, right click, and choose Create Vector Mask. And what that does, and actually I need to clean this up a little bit, is it created a vector mask based on those two shapes I had combined. So to get rid of this bottom part, while I'm in the pen mode, I'm going to hold down Command, and this is a little tricky because since I have both entire objects selected, I need to switch back to point mode. And one way I can do that is to hold Command and Shift, click on one of these points, and then just let go of both keys, hold Command and click one of them. And you'll notice these points go from being filled in to hollow. Now this whole process might take a little bit of practice, and you may even want to consider skipping this process if it's a bit too complicated. But for those of you who have a bit more experience with the pen tool, this can be a useful little trick. So what I did was I basically held down Command, clicked on the point, and then with Command still held down, I'm dragging these points within the boundaries of this rectangle. Now again, that was kind of a trickier process if you haven't used the pen tool, so don't worry if you're not able to do that. So now I've got him outlined, and now I'm going to return the opacity back to 100%. Now the only issue I have now is his head is over top of this title here. So I'm just going to switch to the arrow tool, right click, choose guitarist, move that over. Okay. Lastly, I'm going to throw the singer down here. So I'm going to go to singer, right click, open with Photoshop. Command A, copy all. Command C, Command W to close. I'm going to right click here, choose image 1, press Command V. Again, convert it to Smart Object. Command T to scale, drag it into place. Hit enter. And now I'm going to hold Option and click between the two layers. Now I'm just going to move it into place. There we go. Okay. I now have the images taken care of. Actually, there was one more image I want to add, and that is to get this crowd in the background. So I'm going to right click, open with Photoshop. Command A to copy all, or to select all, Command C to copy, Command W to close. Okay, since I want this behind all of my content, I want this more as a background element. I'm going to right click on the background, hit Command V to paste, and here it is. So temporarily I won't really be able to see what I'm doing because it's way too big. So like the others, I'm going to convert this to a smart object. Press Command T and hold Shift and drag this. Now if you're not seeing the screen the way I'm seeing it, where I have this gray background and I can kind of move around, you'll want to press F to switch your screen modes. And that will give you a little bit more freedom. Okay. So there's my crowd, but as you can see, it's pretty distracting behind this text, so I'm going to have to do a few things to make that not such an issue. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background color from white to black so that this crowd image just basically blends into the background. So you may just have the preset white background here. If that's the case, you're going to press, well, first of all, you need to make sure that your foreground color is black here. So if it's not, click here, drag this into the corner so that it's black, or that so this says 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Hit OK, and now I'm going to press Option, Delete. That is going to fill in that layer with black. If you're using a fill layer, a color fill layer, I'm going to go and create one first. Layer, new fill layer, solid color. I'm going to call this background. Set the color to black, hit OK. So here it is. I'm going to go ahead and right click, delete that mask because I don't need it. But if you have your fill layer, just double click on that thumbnail, choose your color. Now I'm not saying make yours black, but in my case, it's going to be black. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is just lower the opacity of this crowd a bit. So I'm going to select this layer, rename it crowd, lower the opacity. And that might be enough. The other thing I'll do is maybe change the color of the crowd. So there's a few ways I can do this. I'll show you a way we're already familiar with, and that is by creating a new fill layer. So I'm going to go to Layer, New Fill Layer, Solid Color. And I'm just going to call this Background Color. This one I'm going to choose maybe red, hit OK, and then I'm going to change the blend mode, which is up here, from normal to multiply. Now that makes my crowd entirely red, which makes the text a little bit easier to read. I'm going to go ahead and right click, delete that layer mask because I don't need it. Okay, so now I'm going to change my type to be white. But actually, you know what I didn't do? I didn't create a color scheme yet. So I'm going to pause the video and grab some colors. Okay, so here I am on Cooler, and these are the colors I've chosen, which is kind of the strokes colors already, but they're kind of more harsh, strong colors. So first of all, what I'm going to do is take this color of red and apply that to my background. So I'm going to highlight this color code right here, AB0925, hit Command C to copy it, go into Photoshop, and I'm going to double click on this background color, highlight this, which is the hexadecimal color, and paste it with Command V and hit OK. So now that's changed the color of my crowd. I might actually try a few different other blend modes. Right now it's set to multiply. I'm going to see how overlay looks. Looks a little better. Or maybe even color, which that's a bit too bright. So I'm just going to choose overlay. Okay, next I'm going to make my headers this yellow color. So I'm going to highlight that color, copy it, and choose my header. And this, the way you change your colors for your text is a little different. You need to be in the text tool mode, so I'm going to click that T. Right now it's set to gray, so I'm going to click there, highlight, Command V, and paste that color over my text. So I'm going to do that for this header as well. So hold down Command, right click, choose the layer you want, click the color, and paste. I'm going to do the same thing for these three. And then for the subheaders, I'm going to choose this kind of darker yellow color, just so they're not quite as prominent as the main header. Same with these ones. And then the footer. And probably this call to action right here. And I also want to apply that color to this arrow, so I'm going to select it. And since it's a vector shape, it has a fill layer color thumbnail here, so I'm just going to double click, paste that color. What might actually look a little better is that red color. So I'm going to choose this color, copy, double click, paste. Now lastly, I want to change my paragraph text to white so it's more prominent. So I'm going to right click, choose white. And I'm just kind of flying through this because I've already shown the process a couple times. And right now I just kind of want to apply it without explaining it every time because it's going to be the same process for each. And I'm actually going to keep the footer that same color. And then I'm actually going to get rid of this box behind my logo. But this, again, it's a matter of personal preference. And maybe I'll make this this red color. Okay, now you may have noticed a few of my images have disappeared, and I'm going to assume that's because their blend mode is set to multiply. So I have to go in and change that. And actually, it's not the image itself, it's the one it's clipping to. And that was based on our previous lesson when we were trying to see through our layers and see the sketch below. So I just need to change that back to normal. So I'm going to click this layer. Right now it's set to multiply, normal, and there it shows up. Same with the drummer here. I'm going to choose this layer, change that back to normal, and then choose this layer, set that to normal. Okay, so I realize this isn't the best layout. I kind of rushed through this just to show you the principles, but that's basically how you apply your colors, images, and Photoshop elements. Actually, speaking of, I forgot to throw in my social media icons. So I'm going to search for those real quick. Okay, I know they're in my footer under social icons. And again, these are all set to multiply, so they're not showing up. So I got to switch that to normal, normal, and normal. Okay, so what I'm going to do, open up these social icons. And every file that you get is going to be slightly different. It's just based on how the author set it up. Like, for example, this person threw in a background texture. I'm just going to turn those off. They have a couple extra text layers and that. What I want is actually inside these groups. And it actually looks pretty complex because we've got groups inside of groups. So I'm just going to hold down Command, right click, and choose the group that I want. And hopefully, yep, that's the one I want. So to copy it over, what I can do is with that group selected, I'm going to press F a couple times to switch back to this window mode. And right now they're set up on tabs. I have my layout on this tab and I have my social media stuff on this tab. There's a couple ways we can transfer this over. One way is to hold Command, click and drag this and drag it onto the other tab and hold it there, and it's going to switch. Now I can drag it down onto this new layout and let go. And there it is. So I'm just going to drag it into place. Okay, the other way is just to click and drag this tab and tear it off so that we have two different windows open now. So next time I'm going to choose Twitter. So I'm going to hold down Command, right click, choose group 4, and then just drag this straight over and let go. And then drag it into place. As you can see, it's actually behind this shape layer. So I'm going to select both of these and drag them to the top of this group. Okay, lastly, let's see, I'll just choose V, which is for Vimeo. Choose that, and then drag it over. Oops. And then just close that out, don't save. And I have a band layout. Now there's a few other effects we can apply, but we're already at 34 minutes, so I'm just going to leave it with that. And I hope you have just as much fun creating your own. And, you know, don't feel like you have to follow this formula exactly. These are just some general processes. Try to be a little bit experimental with yours. So, see you next time.